I had to do this video on the interview that CBS did with Donald Trump because Trump basically convicts himself with his own words in this particular interview.
Trump on Thursday, Hillary Clinton gave him a speech very tough on you, said that you wanted to bring back waterboarding, go after the families of terrorists, allow Saudi Arabia to have a nuclear weapon. She says you've said that you know more about ISIS than the generals. But what policy of yours did she mischaracterize?
Number one, it was a whole, written out by professionals and just shot after shot. It was supposed to be foreign policy, and it was really Trump policy. And she got it all wrong. I mean, first of all, she talked about that I want to nuke all of these countries. It's ridiculous. No, I won't.
That's not what she said. She said that you should not have your finger on the button because if you got ticked off at somebody for getting under your skin, your proclivity could be to press that button. But as far as the other comments that she made, i.e. Nuclear proliferation, etc., those are on the money, and you have no defense for those particular statements.
I want these countries to pay for protection. We are protecting them. We have $19 trillion in debt, very soon going to $21 trillion, John, in debt. And I want these countries to reimburse us at least for our cost. She made many statements that she knows were wrong.
Do you still feel like you know more about ISIS than the generals?
Well, they don't know much because they're not winning. That I can tell you. Now, I think they're not winning for a different reason. I think Obama's hurting them.
How so?
It's being run, well, from what I hear, it's being run from the White House. It's all being run from the White House. I've spoken to certain generals, I'll keep it quiet as to who, but highly respected people. They say we could knock them out fast.
In office now, generals, or retired generals?
In one case in office and in one case out of office. And they said, both of them said the same thing. If we had the leadership, meaning the go-ahead, you could knock them out fast. For some reason, Obama's not doing that.
Yeah, and that's a bunch of crap. No, on one hand, he's saying that the generals don't know much, and then on the other hand, he's saying that at least one general that is currently in authority knows exactly what to do. So which one is it? Either they don't know much or they know what to do. And though you won't reveal the names of these quote-unquote two generals that you spoke to, why is it not a problem for you to discuss exactly what to do in order to knock ISIS out? Your arguments don't hold water.
Let me ask you about Libya. You've been highly critical of Libya and Hillary Clinton. You were also for military action to oust Gaddafi and military action to take care of the humanitarian situation in Libya. You supported that.
When you say I supported it, I supported Libya?
Yeah, you supported intervention in Libya.
I did? Where do you see that?
See, and now he just got caught because there's a video clip where he specifically says that we need to intervene in Libya. And apparently his super memory had a hole in it that he forgot about this particular interview and clip.
In a video blog from 2011, you said,
now, we should go in, we should stop this guy, which would be very easy and very quick. We could do it surgically, stop him from doing it, and save these lives.
That's a big difference from what we're talking about. I mean,
but you were for intervention.
Don't forget, I'm the only one. I made a lot of money with Gaddafi, if you remember. He came to the country.
Okay, now here's Trump spinning and going to give us a dissertation regarding the situation. But there's a video proof that he was for intervention in Libya.
Country, and he had to make a deal with me because he needed a place to stay, and he paid me a fortune, never got to stay there, and it became sort of a big joke. But the fact is that Libya was a disaster from the standpoint of the way it was handled.
I mean, but you were for intervention, just to clear that up.
I was for doing something, but I wasn't for what you have right now. And right now, ISIS has their oil, John. ISIS is selling. That's among the finest oil in the world.
Now notice, he just changed from when was I in support of going into Libya to I was in favor of doing something. So within like 3 minutes, he's basically changed his statement about where he was on the Libya situation.
ISIS has taken over the Libyan oil. And we don't do blockades, we don't do anything. They're selling it, they're making a fortune with it. So we go out, we do Libya, we do it poorly as you can do it. You can't do worse. And then now, if you look at what's happened, I mean, the end result is ISIS is selling the oil, and it's a total mess.
This is one of the things that confuses some people about your positions, though. You said you weren't for intervention, but you were for intervention in Libya.
I didn't mind surgical, and I said surgical. You do a surgical shot and you take them out. But I wasn't for what happened. Look at the way it's, I mean, look at with Benghazi and with all of the problems that you've had, it was handled horribly.
Hindsight is always 20/20. Now he throws the word surgical in there. And then I don't think there's anybody that was for exactly what went down, and that would include Clinton and Bush and anybody else that was involved in this thing. As far as being for what subsequently happened, that basically is what you call not being full-sighted on the possibilities and being able to react in a timely manner to potential unwanted consequences.
Since then, you've said you were never for interventions.
I was never for a strong intervention. I could have seen surgical where you take out Gaddafi and his group.
You said Hillary Clinton should go to jail. If the FBI, which is investigating, if there's no indictment, will your Attorney General go after?
So I have spoken to and I've watched and I've read many lawyers on the subject, you know, so-called neutral lawyers, okay? Not even on one side or the other, neutral lawyers. Every one of them, without a doubt, said that what she did is far worse than what other people did, like General Petraeus, who essentially got a 2-year jail term.
All right, I don't know about you, but there's no such thing as a neutral lawyer. A lawyer has an opinion and basically will defend his position or opinion, whichever side it's on. So as far as a lawyer is concerned, there's no such thing as a neutral lawyer. Now, what you want is a neutral judge who is a fair arbitrator when arguments are made, that he can decide based on the arguments starting from a neutral position. But lawyers are not neutral.
General Petraeus and others have been treated, I mean, their lives have been, in a sense, destroyed. She keeps campaigning. I mean, what she did is a criminal situation. She wasn't supposed to do that with the server and the emails and all of the other. Now, I rely on the lawyers. These are good lawyers. These are professional lawyers. These are lawyers that know what they're talking about and are very well versed on what she did. They say she's guilty as hell.
But it sounded like you were making a promise for your Attorney General that if you were elected, this is one of the things, this is a commitment you were making, basically. It's a commitment to have your Attorney
Certainly
General.
have my, very fair, but I would have my Attorney General look at it.
Even if the investigations
And
go
as you
through.
know, you have a 5 and maybe even a 6-year statute of limitations.
But even if the current investigations don't find anything, you'd have your Attorney General go back.
Yes, I would, because everyone knows that she's guilty. Now, I would say this, she's guilty.
Everyone does not know that she's guilty. And you're basically just using this as a political ploy in order to throw red meat to your supporters. Everybody doesn't know that she's guilty. The FBI is still undergoing their investigation, and when they get through, if they decide to file criminal charges against her, so be it. If they decide that criminal charges aren't warranted, so be it. In your opinion, she's guilty because you're running against her.
But I would let my Attorney General make that determination. Maybe they would disagree, and I would let that person make the determination.
And what for you exactly is she guilty of?
She is guilty of the server. She is guilty of, you look at confidential information, I mean, all of the information that probably has gotten out all over the world.
She's guilty of the server. Okay, using that server is not a crime. It's a violation of rules, but not a crime. You don't know that her server was breached and information is out there all over the world. That's idle conjecture. So out of the first two things out of your mouth, they are not crimes, okay? Judgment, poor judgment, is not a crime. If it were, we need to arrest and convict a ton of police officers who are guilty of poor judgment in the murder of various citizens of the United States. But because they have wide latitude in their use of power and authority, they are never convicted of poor judgment. It's not a crime.
And then you know what? She's also guilty of stupidity and bad
But
judgment.
that's not, if that were criminal, we'd all
No,
be in
I'm
jail.
not even saying that part is criminal, but she's certainly guilty of that. In terms of this country, she is guilty of having just bad. How could she do a thing like this?
But
I
what do
mean,
you get? What gets him to jail, though? What's the difference here between rhetoric and law?
what the lawyers are saying is what she did in terms of national security. They have very strict rules and regulations. She's broken all of them.
So the classification
She's
issue.
broken all of them. Of course it is. I mean, she's broken so much. But she's so, you know, if you look at this from the standpoint of why did she do it? Judgment, the word judgment. This isn't criminal judgment. You make bad judgment. Although, actually, under those rules and regulations, judgment is even criminal. You know, you're not supposed to do it. If you make a mistake, they don't take that into account. Why would a person, and how can a person with this kind of judgment become the president of the United States? Now, think of this. We're in a cyber world. It's a cyber world. This is a very complex, we're in a world like we've never been in before. If we're in a cyber world and she can't even handle her emails, how can she be president? And we're being hacked all over the place by Russia, by China probably. I mean, to the best of everyone's knowledge, it seems to be. But listen to this. So we're in a cyber world and she's playing around with servers and emails. How can she be running this country? She doesn't know what she's doing.
I want to move on to another development this week. Paul Ryan has now come out and endorsed you. You've talked to him several times.
Yes.
Which of his ideas, the famous Ryan ideas, are most appealing to you?
He's most appealing. He's a good man. He wants good things for the country. We will agree on many things. We're not going to agree on all things, but we're going to agree on many things.
For instance?
Paul Ryan, well, I think we'll agree on, as an example, he really focuses on poverty. He wants to take people out of poverty. So do I. And we're going to come up with a plan.
Why do you think people are poor, by the way?
They're poor because they don't have jobs. They're poor in many cases because they don't have jobs. And I will tell you, I will bring jobs back to this country like nobody's ever seen before.
They're poor because they don't have jobs that pay a livable wage, not because they don't have jobs. Yes, the unemployment rate is, at this point, it's below 5%. So people have jobs. Now, there is a portion of the labor market that has stopped looking for jobs, but it's not as great as these guys want to make it out to be. A large portion of that, which grows every single day, are the baby boomers that are retiring that they're throwing into that particular number. So it's not that poor people don't have jobs. Some of them have 2 or 3 jobs. It's that the jobs don't pay a livable wage. And you're against raising the minimum wage.
And people like Carrier and Ford and Nabisco leaving Chicago and moving to Mexico, they're all moving to Mexico. I will stop that very quickly.
Do you see yourself as implementing Paul Ryan's agenda as president, or is Paul Ryan implementing the Donald Trump agenda?
I think it's going to be a compromise, honestly. I can see a compromise.
Because on issues of trade, entitlements, you and he, immigration. So trade, entitlements, immigration, those are no small issues. You are on exactly the opposite end of those aren't differences. You're on the opposite end of the...
Well, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, we've spoken about it very briefly. They're big subjects. You know what my deal is on trade? I want good deals. That's what my deal. You know, somebody said, what is your position on trade? I said, I want good deals. Whether it's free trade, not free trade, I don't care what kind of trade it is. I want good deals for our country. We don't make good deals. We have a trade deficit with China that is through the roof. We have a trade deficit with Mexico. We have a trade deficit with Japan. We make bad deals, whether it's the military, whether it's trade. We only make bad deals.
Let me ask you about Mitch McConnell on the Senate side. He was asked by CNN well, 2 things. One, about the deporting of the 11 million undocumented immigrants, which the president, by the way, called a fantasy. He said if you asked him to do that, he would say, no, don't do it. He also said about the temporary ban on Muslim immigration, no, don't do it. These are 2 big promises. You got millions of votes based on these promises. How are you going to get past the establishment to keep those promises?
You're going to have to watch and you're going to have to see. I've done a lot of things that nobody thought I could do.
But you're not backing down on those promises based on a no from
we
the
have to
Senate.
do something. We have a problem in this country. We have a radical Islamic terrorism problem in this country. And by the way, throughout the world. throughout the world. It's a problem. And it's a temporary ban. I'm not talking permanent. It's a temporary ban. We have to find out what's going on.
Let me ask you about what does
Real quick, there is no way in the world that Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan are going to push through any legislation in order to deport 11 million illegal aliens, and there's no way that they're going to push through any legislation that is going to ban Muslims from entering this country. No way, no how, forget it.
the Mexican heritage of the judge in the Trump University case have to do with anything?
I think it has a lot to do with it. First, I've had terrible rulings forever. I had a judge previous to him, and it would have been a very quick case. This is a case I should have won on summary judgment. This is a case, and nobody writes this, and they all know it, but they don't like to write it. The plaintiff in the case was a woman. She was so bad that under deposition, it was over. I mean, she couldn't have been the plaintiff. It was a disaster. They went before the judge. They said, we don't want her to be the plaintiff. We want to put somebody else in.
Okay, that's partially true, but not completely true. She was the only named plaintiff in a class action lawsuit. That means her name was used to represent the class. The people that are suing you realized that she was a poor representative as far as representing the class was concerned. So they in turn sought to remove, and did in fact remove her as one of the named plaintiffs. But the class still existed, and that is why the judge allowed the suit to go forward. Now, what does that have to do with that judge's ethnicity? Not a damn thing. But you brought it up, indicating that no Mexican, because you're going to quote unquote build the wall, should be in a position to judge any of your dealings or lawsuits. That is a bunch of bullshit. That's just like me appearing in court, and especially in the South, and saying no white judge has the ability to judge me fairly because he more than likely agrees with white supremacists. I have no basis for making that statement, but given what you're doing, and if what you're doing is allowed, then my premise and any African American's premise about being judged by anyone other than a black judge, and in some cases not even, you'd have to check the background on a black judge, that no one other than a black judge has the right in order to judge me in any aspect of a lawsuit or anywhere within my life. Just not going to happen. We have laws about that kind of stuff, and you're pulling bullshit out of your ass, and it just proves that race is a factor with you.
So we said, well, that's fine, dismiss the case. You have to dismiss the case. Wait a minute. She gave letters, the most incredible reviews of the college you've ever seen, of the university. She gave the most incredible. Then on top of it, we have a tape where she's talking about it in the most glowing terms. You wouldn't speak about your college.
Trump, what does this have to do with his parents being from Mexico?
No,
How does that?
Exactly. What does that have to do with the judge's parents being from Mexico? No, all you want to do is basically filibuster and try to, well, you're not going to affect the jury pool, but you just want to get your point of view out there regarding the case, and not basically prove your point regarding the judge's inability to judge you properly based on his Mexican heritage.
I'm just saying, we're getting terrible rulings. We go to the judge, we say to the judge, hey, you can't let her out of the case. He let her out of the case. We said, well, if you're going to let her out of the case, she's the plaintiff. If you're going to let her out of the case is over. No, the case is enough. Okay? Now,
Give me the
He
thought
has given
process.
me
How does this work?
my thought process.
No, for him, how does his Mexican parents have to do with him not
He's a
voting for
member
you?
of mine, but I say he's got bias. I want to build a wall. I'm going to build a wall. I'm doing very well with the Latinos, with Hispanics, with the Mexicans. I'm doing very well with them in my.
That's bullshit. His approval rating with people of Hispanic heritage is somewhere around 12 to 14%. The only disapproval rating higher than that is with the African American population, where he's got a disapproval rate of 95%.
Opinion. And we're going to see. You're going to see. Because you know what? I'm providing jobs. Nobody else is giving jobs. But just so you understand, this judge has treated me very unfairly. He's treated me in a hostile manner. And there's something going on. When a woman can be a plaintiff in a case and then say, I don't want to be, and you know why they don't want to be a plaintiff? They didn't want her. The lawyers asked that she not be a plaintiff because they would have lost the case immediately.
So I'm trying to figure out your thinking here, though. If his Mexican heritage, the fact that his parents were Mexican immigrants, is a barrier to him doing his job, why would any Mexican voter vote for you? Wouldn't they be the same barrier, same problem?
No, they're going to vote for me because I'm going to bring jobs into the country.
But isn't it the same problem because you want to build a wall and all that? So what if it was a Muslim judge?
By the way, I have so many Hispanics. I made a speech last night. I saw hundreds of signs, Latinos for Trump,
Yeah, he probably did see maybe 100 signs, Latinos for Trump. But Trump's got a history of paying people, paying actors and just ordinary people, allowing them into his rallies to hold up signs. He's got a history of that, and it's documented. So I don't believe that those hundreds of people holding up signs, Latinos for Trump, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that, because those boys, if that was true, as soon as those boys came out of that rally that was up in San Jose that he's referring to, the Mexican immigrants outside that rally, they would have demolished them.
Latinos for Trump, all over the place. And you know what? They're here legally. They don't want their homes taken away. They don't want their job taken away. They like.
If they're here legally and they don't want their homes taken away and their jobs taken away, you want to explain to me exactly how that would work? Now, if you had said they're here illegally, you know, obviously your argument's gone. But anybody that's here legally has nothing to fear as far as their homes and their jobs being taken away. Again, you know, he's spouting bullshit.
I'm doing. Now, people can come in, but they have to come in legally.
You on the Muslim, but what if he was a Muslim though? You've been very tough on temporary Muslim immigration bans. So would a Muslim judge be? Would a Muslim judge be also out of the question here?
We are allowing tremendous numbers of people coming into this country that we know nothing about. We have a problem in this country. We are going to have big problems. You know, I've been pretty good at predicting things, John. We're going to have big problems. We have people coming into this country, totally undocumented. They don't know anything about them. They don't have paperwork. I've interviewed and talked to the best law enforcement people in the business. There's no way of knowing where they come from, and we're taking them in from the so-called migration. They're being sent all over the country. We have people that don't know what they're doing.
My question is, if it were a Muslim judge, would you also feel like they wouldn't be able to treat you fairly because of that policy of yours?
It's possible, yes. Yeah, that would be possible, absolutely.
Isn't there
You could have followed up that question with, well, suppose it was a woman. You've made so many misogynist comments about women. Suppose it was a woman. Would a woman be qualified to judge you? He'd probably say, probably not. He could have also thrown in African American, since Trump has pissed off basically most African Americans, and he probably would say he wouldn't want an African American to judge him either. So bottom line is the only group that would be qualified to judge Donald Trump is a white Caucasian with no ties to any group other than European.
a tradition, though, in America that we don't judge people by who their parents were, where they came from?
I'm not talking about tradition. I'm talking about common sense, okay? He's proud of his heritage, and I think that's great that he's proud of it.
But you're saying it's a barrier to him doing his job.
Oh, he's not doing me fair. He's not treating me fairly.
And you think it's not because of where his parents came from?
I've had numerous lawyers. Look, I have a case where thousands of people have said it was a great school. They've written reviews where they say it's a great school, not a good school, like great. They gave it the highest marks. I have thousands of these papers. It should have been a summary judgment case, meaning the case should have been dismissed. And I had a judge who was very fair. I have a lawyer that came in when he came in. I mean, the lawyer on the other side sort of entered the case when he entered the case, and we're trying to figure out what that's all about.
Would you have your lawyers say, hey, throw this out because the
Well,
judges,
do that
you
now.
ask your lawyers to do
We're
that?
finding things out now that we didn't know before.
Because it was with Mexican heritage, though. Use that
because
as
of other
lawyers.
things. I mean, because of other things.
You said you want to reopen
How do
Trump.
you allow a case to proceed when the plaintiff asks to be dismissed from the case? The plaintiff,
You allow it to proceed when it's a class action lawsuit. And that just tells me that Trump has no idea of what the hell he's talking about. And apparently his lawyers have not informed him of why the lawsuit was allowed to go forward. And if he had any sense, he could have asked the judge himself why he was allowing the lawsuit to go forward, and the judge would explain to him that it's because it's a class action lawsuit. And the person that they were releasing from the case basically is no longer within has requested to no longer be considered within the class. So there's the answer to your question, Mr. Trump.
the one that brought the suit, said, I don't want to sue anymore. I don't want to sue anymore. They didn't want to sue. You know why they didn't want to? Because she can't win the case.
Yeah.
Because she was a disaster. So the lawyers want her dismissed from the case. They go before the judge and he lets her out. Well, he can let her out, but you have to dismiss the case.
Yeah, I guess I'm just still confused what does Mexican parents have to do with that?
Excuse me. I want to build a wall. I mean, I don't think it's very confusing.
Well-
It has nothing to do with anything except common sense. You know, we have to stop being so politically correct in this country, and we need a little more common sense, John. And
It's common sense that because the guy's parents are Mexican, legal Mexican immigrants, that he's going to be biased against you because you want to build a wall which you're never going to build. That's a bunch of bullshit.
I'm not blaming. I'm proud of my heritage. We're all proud of our heritage. But I want to build a wall. Now, the Hispanics, many of them like what I'm saying. They're here legally. They don't want people coming and taking their jobs and taking their house and everything else. They don't want that.
Let me ask you about Trump University. You're going to reopen it. Anything you do differently when you reopen it?
Look, I guess in life you always do things differently. I'll tell you, the thing that we did very well is we had evaluation reports done by all of the students. I mean, without that, it would be, you know, my word against their word, I guess, or somebody's word against their word. We have evaluation reports where we have thousands of them, and these reports, I mean, they're very detailed reports. What did you think of the instructors? What did you think of this? What did you think of the, you know, 1 to 5, mostly a 5, 5 being excellent, right? It's from 1 to 5, 5 being the best. And people circle. I'm being sued by people that have given this tremendous reports. Now they're going to say, oh, but they were forced. Who forced them? Nobody forced them. You mean they forced thousands of people to sign reports? Nobody forced them to sign a report. And many, it says remarks, and many have in handwriting beautiful statements about the school. Look, it's very simple. It's called, if I have a chance to get my money back, let me get my money back.
Let me get my money back because I'm dissatisfied with the product. And obviously you promised satisfaction guaranteed. Since they're not satisfied, they want their money back, and you don't want to give it back. Plain and simple. And that doesn't even count the fact that the tactics that you used were potentially illegal, but definitely immoral.
Question: should the U.S. go to the Olympics still with the threat of Zika in Brazil?
The answer is yes, but certainly if an athlete wouldn't want to do it, they should have the right not to do it. But I would say yes.
All right, Mr. Trump, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's Donald Trump's full interview on CBS. I felt like it was necessary to put this up for people who don't have access to Face the Nation.